Mission log. Agent Marek Halden. Clearance level. Black Ouroboros tier. Sauron Federation Intelligence Command. Subject. Re-emergence potential. Hive class biological entity. This log isn't for command. Not really. They'll scrub it, archive it, bury it beneath so many encryption layers that no one will even know it existed. Maybe that's for the best, but I need to say it. I need to leave a record for whoever might come next. For the ones who don't make it back, my name is Agent Marek Halden, Sauron Federation Intelligence. 22 years in the field, 16 confirmed outbreaks, 2 Black Seal purges, 1 planet glassed. That planet was Erebus 3. They don't call it that anymore. The name's been deleted from public records, scrubbed from navigation databases. Just a blank spot on the nav maps. The official line: terraforming failure, catastrophic geothermal instability, environmental collapse. The truth: a biological event, a planetary class intelligence born from stolen DNA and hubris, a hive. And I saw it up close. Erebus 3 was supposed to be a routine case, a frontier colony in the Yaren Expanse, modest population, light industry, no recent threats logged. Then the silence started. Cargo ships stopped arriving. Comms went dark. The only signals coming out were encrypted pings from automated systems. That and telemetry anomalies, medical in nature, reports of fatigue, neural overstimulation, elevated immune response. Standard diagnostics blamed it on atmospheric drift, solar flare exposure, something benign, but something about the signal architecture caught my eye. The timestamps were off, certain data packets were overwritten, entire sectors of the feed felt curated, like someone was removing just enough to keep us guessing. I flagged it, internal command dismissed it, said it wasn't worth the fuel to check, but protocol states 3 weeks of dead cargo lanes warrants escalation. They handed it to intelligence, they handed it to me, and they sent cadets with me. I've learned not to get too close to cadets. It doesn't matter if they're smart or brave or hopeful. Most don't make it through their first live op. These ones were fresh. Green armor, new rifles, wide eyes. One of them had a guitar slung over his pack like this was going to be some kind of adventure. I didn't have the heart to tell him that Erebus 3 wasn't a mission. It was a grave waiting for names, and I'd seen something like it before. Not exactly, but close enough. Back when I was a cadet, my team walked into a containment breach the brass tried to downplay. We weren't supposed to survive, and we didn't. Not all of us, just me. They never asked questions, just gave me clearance, a badge, and an unspoken understanding. If I could live through that, I could survive anything. That's what they believed. They were wrong. We landed in the central district of the colony. The city was still standing. Rails still hummed with power. Lights were still running on backup. The perimeter security field was active, but there were no guards, no patrols, no citizens, no voices, just the soft whine of turbines and the distant rattle of wind. We swept the district. Residential blocks were pristine, refrigerated food still cold, showers still damp, clocks still ticking, but no people. Then we found the first anomaly, a wall halfway through a living unit, textured with hair and skin-infused vertebrae. A person pulled halfway into the durasteel, like their body had been synthesized into the architecture. Still warm, still twitching. The cadets froze. One dropped his weapon. I ordered a full halt and a biohazard lockdown. The medical team called it a spatial trauma event. I called it a warning. Things escalated from there. In the outer sectors, we found movement, people, or what looked like people. They didn't run, didn't speak, just stared. Their limbs hung wrong. Their expressions were fixed. When we approached, they smiled. Not kindly, too wide, too deliberate. One woman kept murmuring her husband's name while blood dripped from her eyes. The medics ran diagnostics. Nothing showed up. No bacteria, no virus. I didn't trust the scans. I ordered a biopsy. From the brain. The local staff resisted. I didn't argue. I performed it myself. Under the microscope, we saw them. Filaments, not organic, not entirely. Slender threads woven into tissue, responding to stimuli. They posed under observation like they knew we were watching. They were spreading, coordinating, learning. I sent a report to command, labeled it level 8 biohazard, requested immediate evac and containment. They replied 6 hours later. Single word: observe. They didn't understand. They didn't want to. I knew what was coming, because I remembered what it felt like to be watched by something that hadn't learned to hate you yet, because it was still becoming. When the cadet patrol vanished, I tracked their beacon to an underground conduit tunnel feeding into the colony's industrial grid. The walls were damp, breathing. We found helmets, blood, one partial skull, no movement. The rest of the squad had vanished. No scorch marks, no signs of a firefight, no camera feed, just gone. I pulled the plug, ordered all cadets back to the ship, sealed the city's lower levels. Command didn't like that, said I was overreacting, said I'd be reviewed. Let them review me from orbit. I wasn't about to lose another squad to ignorance. We couldn't just leave, not without knowing what we were dealing with, so I deployed the proxies. Federation tech classifies them as HRI units, humanoid recon infiltrators. I just call them what they are: drones, hollow bodies wrapped in human skin, radiating heat, mimicking breath, programmed to speak in short, forgettable phrases. They look like us. They move like us. They even sweat if the temperature drops. But they're empty. No minds, no memories, just bait. I fed them to the Hive. It started with stillness. No motion from the colony's lower districts. No sounds, no light. Then the feed picked up movement. A trail, organic residue leading down a transit tunnel toward an industrial lift long out of service. The drones followed. 10 minutes in, they crossed the first threshold. Bioscans lit up, air density dropped, electromagnetic interference began to spike, and static hissed through the audio channels. We lost 2 drones to mechanical failure, the rest kept going. They entered a sub-basement we hadn't mapped, a rebel facility, old tech. Federation consoles fused with spliced wiring and alien biogrowth, a mix of desperation and experimentation. They weren't just hiding something down here, they were building something, and they'd lost control. Containment chambers lined the walls. Some were shattered. Others were sealed, black glass fogged from the inside. We caught glimpses, twisted silhouettes, flesh riddled with metal, elongated limbs, veins pumping a thick iridescent fluid. Some specimens looked human, others didn't. One drone paused at a terminal. Video logs corrupted, but text overlays remained. Subject IDs, genome profiles, modification attempts, fusion rates, test logs for hybrid grafting, and timestamps that confirmed the worst. These experiments continued after the Federation declared the colony safe. They weren't just studying the anomaly, they were trying to weaponize it. Drone 4 breached the central chamber. The feed went black for half a second. When it returned, it showed a room that looked alive. The walls pulsed, vents breathed, and in the center, a mass, colossal, writhing, fused from every kind of tissue I've ever seen. Bones arranged in patterns, joints that moved independently, a dozen eyes, some blinking in unison, others staring in random directions. It was growing, not expanding, evolving. Then it moved. A tendril lashed out and crushed the drone. The signal cut. We waited. Nothing. Then, every remaining drone camera, every sensor feed flickered. The image warped, and through the static came a sound, a scream, not mechanical, not animal, sentient rage. It had realized something. There was no mind inside the drone, no neural pathways, no knowledge to consume. It had been baited, and it hated that. That's when it started. Creatures began to emerge from vents, from cracks in the walls, from inside service consoles and water lines. Small at first, the size of mice, slime-covered, whisper-quiet. They weren't attacking, they were scouting. One entered the medbay, crawled onto a counter, looked directly into the security camera. Then it split. 1 became 2, then 5, then 12, and they all turned to face the staff. The room went black. I saw it happening across the city. Residential zones flooded with them. In the space of hours, entire blocks went dark. Not destroyed, absorbed. They weren't killing people, not yet. They were repurposing them, merging, fusing, rewriting tissue. A doctor caught in the act sent a recording before his feed died. They're keeping us alive. We're not hosts, we're tools. This was no longer a biological anomaly. This was a designed intelligence, a learning one, and the clock was done ticking. I ordered full planetary lockdown. The cadets were already prepping for evac, but the airspace had already been breached. The Hive had figured out aviation, and the sky was no longer safe. The sky changed color first. We thought it was atmospheric distortion, ash, heat, or ion interference, but the sensors showed no storm, no fire, no trace radiation, just shadow. It crept in slow, like dusk arriving in the middle of day. The clouds didn't shift, the winds stopped, birds dropped out of the sky in flocks, slamming into buildings, walkways, domes, dead on impact, no wounds, just wrong. We sent a team to recover samples. The birds were hollow, cleaned out, their internal organs were stripped, replaced with a fibrous gel, and tucked inside their rib cages, nestled like seeds, were drones, small, coiled, dormant, delivery systems. The Hive had reached the atmosphere, it had learned flight, and it wasn't sending scouts anymore, it was sending colonists. I called for full evacuation, no more hesitation. We sent the cadets first, loaded them into dropships. I didn't tell them the truth, not all of it, just that they were to return to orbit and await orders. A few protested. One of them, Rail, I think, tried to hand me his rifle, said he wasn't leaving until I did. I told him I'd be right behind him. That was a lie, because I knew what came next. I had seen it before. We initiated fire protocols, incendiaries, plasma bombs, kinetic strikes on transit hubs and power cores. It didn't matter. Every time we destroyed a section, the Hive rerouted, adapted. It had absorbed the colony's infrastructure, its power grid, its waste systems. It used what we gave it against us. One of our own tanks was overrun, restructured, and sent back, crawling on inverted limbs, cannons twisted into grasping claws. We couldn't win. We could only deny it what it wanted. Us. I submitted my final recommendation to command. Glassing. The word alone carries weight. It's not a tactical action, it's an erasure. You melt the ground until it becomes glass. You boil the oceans until they vanish. You detonate deep enough to crack the mantle and collapse the atmosphere. Nothing survives, nothing should. The evac ships broke atmosphere with less than 20% of the population. Most of the colony had already been taken. The last image I saw before the feed cut was the Capitol dome cracking open from the inside, something massive crawling out, not humanoid, not mechanical, a composite, a living monument to everything it had consumed. And it was looking up. It knew. It saw the fleet, and it smiled. The glassing began at 0800 local standard, 36 orbital strikes, layered bombardment, heat, radiation, pressure. From space, Erebus 3 glowed like a dying sun. I watched from the bridge, said nothing, felt nothing, just silence. That was 15 years ago, and I thought we had won. 2 weeks ago, the SS Celestine was recovered, drifting near a comet spine on the far edge of the Yaren system. Inside were bodies, twisted, infested, alive. Same filament patterns, same sense of rot, same hunger. We don't know how it got off-world. We don't know how many more ships are infected, but we know this, it survived. Glassed doesn't mean gone, and this time it may not just be a planet. This time it may be systems. In log, Agent Marek Halden, black clearance, do not archive, do not redact, let someone remember.